Hello, hello, and welcome back to Baki Taki Season 4, Episode 7. I'm going to edit in what the name of the episode is. Moment of the Heat. How could I forget that? But here to join me is the returning guest to the show. It's Tim.
Hello. Good to be back.
Yeah. So, Tim, you're probably the only guest who's done this. In between you coming on the show in this episode, you've watched all of Baki?
Yep, that's right. I finished 2 days ago the entirety of it. So.
And funny, I'm so surprised that more people haven't done that. But
honestly, I think it's a great show. to spoil the ending here, I enjoyed greatly.
All right. Well, I've got a question for all of my returning guests. So let's imagine that we are bringing the world of Baki to the big screen. We're making the Baki cinematic universe. And you are going to be responsible for casting the actor to play Katsumi Orochi. Who would you pick and why?
Oh my goodness, this is tough. I'm not so good with actors, but I guess someone big. Like, I kind of want to say someone like maybe not The Rock, or they're all the people I can think of are bald, but I don't know, like Dave Bautista or something. Like he's kind and big, right?
Yeah.
Although he kind of looks like a little more like Dopo Orochi in a way, I suppose.
I was gonna say he feels like 30 years older than Katsumi.
I just can't think of anyone Katsumi's age that's that like massive as a human. But I don't know. I'm gonna stick with Dave Bautista. Maybe, a future Katsumi.
I would. You know what I would love? I would love if Dave Bautista played Katsumi, but he also played Dopo, and like,
oh, that'd be good.
you put like some makeup on, put some hair on him when he's Katsumi. That could be fun.
They never appear in the same shot,
Yeah. Well, let's jump into this one because this is an episode that I love. I think that this is one of the best fights in the show, which in a very Baki way. Like, it's not like this fight has amazing back and forths or anything. But before we get to the fight, Katsumi is jogging to the arena and he interacts with a few people. What do you think about this setup of the episode?
It was a nice exposition. I feel like sometimes, especially Baki, certain shows can go overboard with exposition, but I felt like this was sort of an appropriate amount to sort of talk about his backstory. Like, he runs into, gosh, I always forget the name of the short little master guy.
Tokugawa, yeah.
Tokugawa, that's right. Well, he runs into Tokugawa, and who I assume is his mother, in a sense.
Sorry, wait. You mean Natsue, the person beside Tokugawa?
Yes, that's right. Okay. Yes.
You will always be my one and only mother.
Hey, Editor Steve here. So, eagle-eyed listeners of the podcast might realize this isn't the first time we've heard of Natsue, and she actually, although she never appeared on screen, she was referenced all the way back in Season 1 when Dopo walked into his house. And well, I'll just play the clip.
Thank you.
So the scene starts with Dopo coming
Honey,
home.
I'm home.
Yep. He looks at his door. For some reason, he's suspicious about the door. Opens it just a crack. And then he kicks it down instead of opening it for some reason. But he was right to be suspicious. It seems that somebody has ransacked the house where his wife lives. So he's looking around. Oh no.
Natsue!
He calls out for Natsue, his wife. Oh, what's that? Dorian's lighter? He gets angry. He starts flexing like the Hulk, ripping his suit.
Dorian!
Oh, and Dorian comes, slaps his face, explodes him and the house. Pause there. So that was the last we heard of Natsue. I thought she died. Because, the house was ransacked and then it blew up with his... Anyway, but apparently she's fine. We just haven't heard from her in a while. So, anyway.
Anyway, he runs into those two, and, Tokugawa says, oh, I brought someone special here, and like even more special than the person standing beside me, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And Katsumi is, of course, like, oh, who's more important than this woman right here?
I don't care who you invite. They couldn't mean more to me than you do. Not even close. You will always be my one and only mother.
And then they reveal that it's his birth mother that Tokugawa had brought over.
I have every right to hate me.
Don't be ridiculous. You are my one and only mother.
And so it goes into a bit of Katsumi's backstory about, how he, was originally like a circus child, and then he had unbelievable physical abilities for a boy of only 5 years old.
Yeah, he was stronger than an elephant.
Yeah, yeah, right. There's a shot of him like pulling an elephant with a rope. Even a 5-year-old.
It was so much more impressive. Like he was like afterwards, he's doing like the the trapeze stuff. Like who cares?
Yeah. At first, like they show him on a trapeze and like, okay, he's really good at trapeze. Okay, cool. And then they show him with the elephants. Like, oh wow, that's a little bit of a step up, I suppose.
Yeah. What an eventful night at the circus. A little boy pulls an elephant, and then his dad gets mauled to death by a tiger, and then a visiting businessman just takes the child away from his mother, who was still alive. Like they say that she was grieving, but of course she was grieving. Her husband died 10 minutes ago from a tiger attack.
Literally just happened.
Then, suddenly and tragically, the boy's father died. Dopo and his wife took over care of the boy from his grief-stricken mother.
We'll take the boy. It's okay.
It's okay. We'll take care of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I feel like maybe on other shows or even other animes, like this level of abrupt exposition would feel out of place. But I feel like in Baki, this was actually quite tame. Like there have been, I don't know, just like how Family Guy does these like random cutaways. Like I feel like Baki just does that, but only for exposition. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just shamelessly like cut away for like 5 literal minutes to describe the weapons that the police were using or something, or to explain what a dust explosion is and things like this,
A talented chef has such skill, such elegance, that they can create a soup that allows the diner to identify from just one spoonful all the ingredients that went into making it.
Yeah, this one felt normal. Katsumi is a character that we don't interact with too much, and when we did, we learned a bit more about his past. It was
it felt like an appropriate level of exposition, honestly.
Yeah, you know what I'm realizing that I like about this backstory is his dad was mauled by, I think it was a lion, maybe a tiger, some big cat at the circus, and his new dad is famous for killing a tiger in one-on-one combat. Paints it on the wall. Like what a flex.
I feel like that's got to be deliberate. That can't be accidental.
Maybe he did it as like a gift to his son. To be
right. Maybe. Like revenge in some weird way.
Yeah. Eye for an eye. The other thing I want to talk about this is there's 2 other things. One, the fact that Katsumi gives like the weird hug to both his mom and the other he does like the exact same hug to both of his moms, and he's never looked bigger. Like he looks like the Hulk hugging a regular sized woman.
Yeah, he looks massive.
Yeah, which is crazy because on this show he's usually like on the shorter side. But I guess that just also emphasizes how unoften we see like a middle-aged woman in this show.
This is very true.
But the other thing I wanted to mention is, so this fight, for some unknown reason, maybe because the stadium's full of chloroform, Tokugawa wants the fight to happen at 6 a.m. in a baseball diamond. I've always assumed that the underground fighting arena was sort of like a secret thing, and that's why it's underground. But apparently you can fight a caveman to the death in a public baseball diamond. So it's like did you think that this fights had to be like underground, or maybe that could have been part of the name?
I mean, I guess I honestly had not given it any thought until just now. But if I had to imagine a reason for which it's done this way, maybe Tokugawa had some kind of like knowledge that all the people from the various branches of the karate dojo would show up or something, and he did this as an act of symbolism or something. But like, I don't know. That's a very good point. That's sort of like every other like intense fight of this caliber has basically been in the underground arena, and then for once they're just like, we'll rent out the stadium for this one.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Maybe the underground arena does not have the capacity to support the million men of Shinshin Kai.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. So moving on, Katsumi walks into the stadium. Baki stands there, covered in blood. Do you remember why he's bleeding so much?
Was he shadowboxing against something? I actually forget.
Yeah, at the end of the last episode, we saw him about to shadowbox a T-Rex. So presumably he is that bloody from the T-Rex.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah. Baki is once again an asshole, and just sort of... I don't even know why he's there, honestly.
I never thought you'd get to fight him before I did.
I should be the one.
Yeah. You should be the one.
But Katsumi walks by that. Doppo's there doing a nice squat in the hallway. Doppo says, go get him, Tiger. And Katsumi goes in. And then we get what might be one of my favorite scenes of the season. The music swells up. Katsumi enters the baseball stadium as all of the members of Shinshin Kai, plus like Retsu, Kaku, Suedo, they are all doing a very simple punch and going, ah!
Ah!
Exactly.
The power of that symbol, amplified by 55,000 fists and voices, rained down on Katsumi. There are 220 branches of Shinshin Kai in Tokyo, with a total of 55,000 members. Despite the early hour of the morning, they have all assembled here inside the Tokyo Dome in order to inspire their young leader. Following the unwavering lead of their instructor, Atsushi Suedo, they shouted with all their might.
I'm Atsushi Suedo, and I'm a third-degree black belt. I'm ready to die here tonight.
Did you enjoy this scene as much as I did?
I think so. Like, there are moments in animes where you're just like, oh hell yeah, it's about to happen, and like, I don't know, the directing of the episode with the combined music and the situation and sort of like this realizing of how grand an event that's about to unfold is going to be is I think it was really well done here. This was very exciting actually when he enters, and it's like all quiet and he's like, huh, and then suddenly you just hear the "Yah!" of all the members of Shinshin Kai.
I loved it, and I loved that it was a mixture of a million faceless guys, but also the few guys that this. Wow, to be honest, anytime Suedo comes back, I always enjoy that.
Is Suedo the 100-plus-year-old champion guy?
No, so that's Kaku. Emperor Kaku. Suedo is the big guy who was leading the punches. I only know him, because I did a podcast episode. He was the guy who fought Dorian on a roller coaster.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. As from that episode, we remember that Suedo is.
I don't know his name. Atsushi, something. He's a
Something
third-degree
Suedo.
black belt, and he's ready to die.
And that was about all we knew about him. Anyway, he's back. He does nothing in this episode.
He's leading the morale, Steve. He's doing everything.
Yeah, we see how much impact that has. So, Pickle, I don't know, he opens the bullpen or something, and or Katsumi opens it, and Pickle comes out immediately, and we get the fight just starts. Katsumi gets 5 punches to the vitals. He gets like some good hits in, and it does absolutely nothing to Pickle, who kicks him about. If you were playing baseball in that diamond, that would probably get you a double if you kicked Katsumi as far as he did. But at this point, how did you think the fight was going to go?
I mean, just based on the progression, despite Katsumi's training and everything, I didn't think he was going to be the one to defeat Pickle to begin with. So I was kind of like, okay, he's he gets hit and he blocked the punch, but he clearly, as he says, like I blocked it, but I took so much damage already, or something like that.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's kind of like, okay, like he needs to pull out his big guns, like he needs to pull out all the sweet moves that he's been working on over the past few episodes.
Wouldn't have that been great though if Katsumi did win this fight, and then like the next episode the title credits change, it's all about Katsumi.
It's just the episode or the show is just called Katsumi Orochi instead of Bakihama.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, no, it's one of those things going into this fight. Like, like if even the theme song, you can tell that Katsumi is not going to be the one to win this. But the question becomes, how much of a moral victory are you going to get? Are you gonna end up with Retsu, where your moral victory is that you believed in yourself, or or do you get to like actually like do some damage to him? And so that's sort of the fun part about watching this fight.
Of course.
And the other fun part, of course, is that Katsumi finally gets to show his mock punch in action. Now, we talked about this last episode, but it's one of my favorite concepts. What do you think about the whole imagining that you have more joints in your body than you do technique?
I mean, I think so. Okay, I'll caveat this with I've never practiced martial arts in my life, but I've heard things about like chi or ki or whatever linguistic variation of the word, your latent energy, and how this is sometimes used or described in certain branches of martial arts, or types of martial arts rather. Even though I don't believe that this type of energy literally exists, I think it's a good metaphor to describe what you're doing in terms of form. For example, I've heard before, like, oh, when you're throwing this punch, push all of your energy into the ground. And I still feel that that's sort of like a useful way of thinking about what you're doing that could still achieve the result that you're attempting. And so when it comes to his looseness of his joints, or imagining that instead of just one bone in your forearm, it's composed of two, or actually it's composed of four, or any number of subdivisions. I think that's I think it's a useful metaphor. Like, I get it. I was watching this and I was kind of like, I understand what he's going for, and like why he's attempting this to achieve this mock punch, especially when the comparison to a whip is described, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that this is the type of stuff you need to do to, punch at 770 miles an hour. I think you need to you need to use these helpful techniques like stay loose and just imagine you have more joints.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Katsumi's mastered this punch. He gets a good blow on Pickle, and Pickle actually, he gets knocked back and feels pain as if he got hit by a T-Rex's tail.
Pickle, for the first time in his 190 million years of existence, felt an unfamiliar pain in his belly. Something with all the power of a T-Rex's tail had landed a direct blow to his stomach.
To be honest, I don't know if a T-Rex's tail would hurt as much as getting punched at Mach speed. But I don't know. The T-Rex tail had a lot of joints. It's possible that it also went at Mach speed.
Right.
Every year science is coming up with new facts about the T-Rex, so I assume...
In fact, the T-Rex's tail can travel at Mach speed.
But what is it? So at this point in the fight, Katsumi gets another good punch in. He what is it? He gets one punch on the face, and then he gets a kick and a punch, and Pickle gets knocked back each time. He's clearly, feeling these punches and being propelled backwards by them. However, as a side effect, it turns out that punching at the speed of sound will break every bone in your hand and or foot. Now, I had some questions about this because I don't think the show actually makes sense here. I assumed that the problem was that when you punch at the speed of sound and hit the human brick wall of Pickle, that will break your bones. Albert Einstein, though, seems to think that just breaking the speed of sound is what causes your problems. And I wanted to see which you think is the actual answer.
Okay, well, I actually thought about this when I was watching it and rewatching it too, and it led me to other questions. Like, if an astronaut had like a hole in their spacesuit or something, but it was still like perfectly airtight, like around the wrist or something, would what happened to Katsumi also happen to the astronaut? Like, would the vacuum have some kind of adverse effect on like would it pull out their blood or something? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but it raised some like real life, well, not maybe not everyday life, but real life questions of like what would actually happen to the human body or any of its parts that are still under pressure in a vacuum. I don't know, but definitely when I saw the hits hit, I thought, oh yeah, his hand's broken because he hit the brick wall that is Pickle. But I don't know. Albert Einstein seems to have a different theory of relativity.
Yeah. That would be a great idea for the rematch. Pickle, like, they fly Pickle up to the moon, and then they can fight each other. But the question really becomes, like, I almost feel like what the author is saying here is that it doesn't matter that Katsumi was punching at 780 miles an hour. What mattered is just the shockwave that he created. And that, like, if you took away the shockwave, the punch would have done nothing.
No, it wasn't Pickle's body. It was something else.
Professor Payne?
It was caused by the air. By his body breaking the sound barrier.
Sound barrier?
Which is absurd. Like, it's so crazy. Like, it's... Because then the idea is like Pickle or like Katsumi, why don't you just punch him at 700 miles an hour? Like, I'm sure that will, but I don't know. Apparently the shockwave is very important, and also the human body was not meant to reach 770 miles an hour, so breaks all your bones.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, also if you punch at that speed and then pull back, I'm sure in real life, a number of joint and dislocations would happen. Joint problems and dislocations, rather.
Oh my god. Well, luckily, luckily Katsumi has 10 million joints in his body, so he can lose a few. Man, there were some great quotes in this episode around now.
Why has God sent such a thing into this modern world?
Referring to Pickle, but then even better.
Whether it was invented by accident or a gift from God, the whip is a tool that can achieve Mach speed through human power alone.
Was the whip invented by accident or a gift from God?
Which that was a quote that I didn't quite get. It kind of seemed to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, and also, I don't think those are the only two outcomes. I think somebody might have designed a whip. I don't know. Maybe there's a biblical like version. Maybe like one of the like lesser known parts of the Garden of Eden is that God gave them a whip for some reason. Maybe that's what the snake was supposed to be.
Actually, a whip.
Yeah, that's why he made them eat the apple.
One, I guess not individual quote, but like when Albert Einstein, man, I forget this scientist's name, but Albert Einstein, when he's when he's explaining, what the sound barrier is and stuff, like everyone in that scene, like I think Tokugawa is sitting there, and he's sitting beside Baki or someone else.
Yeah, I think Baki's there. Yeah.
None of them seem to have any clue of what the sound barrier is, which I feel like is just kind of common knowledge, even if you don't really understand how it works. Like they were like, this barrier of air or whatever it's called,
I don't think they know that air is around them. Like, if it doesn't matter in a fight, they're not too concerned.
Yeah. I guess that's fair.
Well, that was, you know what? I honestly don't think they know, because it's funny, because in the previous episode, we had there's those great scenes of Retsu and Katsumi watching a little TV and explaining how shockwaves work. And like, if you fire a bullet, you can see where it breaks the sound barrier. So, right. Baki hasn't had that lesson.
I see.
Yeah, and I think he sleeps through most of his classes. So
I would imagine.
So Pickle he enters Pickle mode. Actually, I missed it earlier. He did the same stance Yujiro did, which is funny.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was cool, but the thing is, So Yujiro, like, you know, that stance was designed around him and his outfit, and he looks cool doing it. Pickle looks very cool normally, especially when he's wearing like his leather jacket that he had a few episodes back.
So dapper.
Yeah, but when he does Yujiro's stance, in his weird little like loincloth thong, I didn't like it.
That's fair. To be totally honest, I know Baki conspiracy theory coming, but when they first showed the preview for this season, like there was a cliffhanger in the previous one where they found, you know, some hyper muscular individual in this block of, what was it, salt or something? Salt.
That's why it's called Pickle.
Right, of course. Originally, I thought that was a flashback and that they were going to show that that's actually how they found Yujiro. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I was like almost slightly disappointed. I was like, oh, it's just another dude. But Pickle's really cool. So my conspiracy theory is like, I feel like Baki and Yujiro might be descendants, like direct descendants of Pickle or something.
Oh my god, I actually really like that idea. Like, flashback. But then we'd miss out on Yuichiro or
yeah, the other one.
His ghost dad was. We'll get to that in a few months. All right, final part of the episode. Pickle enters pickle mode. He's gonna do his signature dash into Katsumi. Katsumi has no functioning hands, one functioning foot that I guess you have to stand on. But he decides he's gonna go even more Mach. I don't know if that's supposed to imply that he hit Mach 2 on this punch, but he puts his all into this punch, and I don't know how you do it, but I think he flexed so hard that all of his muscles flew off his arm.
Yeah, or like the like back motion or like back whip motion of him whipping his arm just like obliterated his joints or something, or his muscle rather.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, because it's not just a regular punch. It's like when you crack a whip, it's the crack back of the whip that has the highest speed. And exactly. So he did that with his fist. I think his bones should have shattered. I think that's the part that would have the most stress, right? Like the muscles.
I thought it was kind of weird how later he was able to hold that arm up with clearly no muscle fibers connecting the two segments of his arm.
He's got that dog in him. It's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want to describe for the listeners at home what this arm looked like? Because it's tough to get across how gross this was.
It's pretty gruesome, honestly. So I mean, from his hand to his elbow, there are only muscle fibers expanding towards the center of his forearm, in both directions. So towards the center of his forearm, there's muscle fibers sort of extending that are just severed halfway through, with exposed bloody bone of his forearm. And that's all that there is. There's no connected muscle tissue between those two segments. His bicep is apparently fine. All the fingers in his hand are completely mangled. His hand also has a bunch of skin missing. It's pretty gruesome.
Yeah. But at least because of this punch, he was able to knock out Pickle. And the audience goes wild. Everybody's punching and yelling and just over the moon. A real happy moment to end the episode on.
I was able to make all the moves I wanted, and I'm still standing. It was all of you who gave me this victory.
But then.
Yeah, exactly. So it turned out that Pickle was not knocked out and is actually taking a nap. I really enjoyed this. I think that there's a lot of stupid stuff that Pickle does, which is the author's way of saying, "Oh, he's an animal," which doesn't really make sense. But I really liked this. The justification is that Katsumi is so injured that there is no further reason to fight him, and Pickle can just take a nap and wait for Katsumi to die of natural causes before he eats it.
Yeah, I thought this was like a pretty. I mean, I've never studied animals nor like how animals operate in the wild, but I don't know. From a layman's point of view, this seemed pretty on point.
And the best part is all of this is described by Albert Einstein off in the stands, and like,
Oh yeah,
I hate
Yes,
this guy.
such a
Like,
right.
he's the villain of this season. He just comes in and talks about how like, yeah, that you know what, that was good, but it's not good enough. You're gonna you will
Yeah,
die.
he seems to know exactly like he comes into every scenario and it's like, well, you think you're strong, but Pickle's even stronger. But it's like he has no sense of fighting or actual strength or anything like this. And he just comes in and just like starts explaining things that no one asked for.
Yeah.
You people just don't get it. Yes, you martial artists are very powerful, I can see that. I'll be the first one to admit that you've exceeded my expectations. But it's not a martial artist you're facing. Pickle's former opponents were primitive beasts from a primitive time. They were huge, the size of mountains.
He's a downer. I wouldn't want to hang out with this version of Einstein.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
that
funny, though.
that leaves us for next episode. What will happen? Will Pickle wake up? Will Katsumi lose another arm? We'll find out. So Tim, you having watched the entire series, I'm just gonna get your thoughts. What did you think of this season as a whole? Like, how would you rank it compared to the other arcs?
I enjoyed this season more than the prison arc.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, I thought this one was really really cool. I think they took a very neat idea of like, oh, what if there was a human, but he lived in prehistoric times, so he was stronger. Honestly, I think that's a very cool idea. I found myself this season sort of more than others, sort of unable to stop watching. So I don't know. I think this was really cool. I think possibly well, maybe not my favorite. Another like really, another one that I really really liked was the serial killer or the
Death Row
that
Inmates.
arc. Death Row Inmates. That's it. That arc was really really cool and very violent.
It's tough to top that. And,
Yeah.
and I agree. I think the Black Pentagon Biscuit Oliver season that we just came from. That one is one that I feel like is hilarious to try and like describe, because it's like, oh, so Baki kidnaps the president and he meets Che Guevara in prison, and then his island nation of pirates, like, but I find it can sometimes drag a bit, and there's not really like Baki just sort of hangs out in prison for like 10 episodes and then has one fight. This one is a much simpler concept. A caveman comes to the real world, comes to Tokyo to eat all of the cast. But it's such a fun concept that you can really like just dig into it for an entire season. All right, this is my new Baki joke I just came up with. What's the difference between the Death Row Inmates arc and the Pickle arc? The Death Row Inmates came to Tokyo to taste defeat, but Pickle came to Tokyo to taste defeat because he eats them.
Yeah, and I feel like there's just a lot that they can do and did do with this, like especially when, when Pickle's walking through Tokyo and the narrator comes on and he's just like, rectangles, lights, etc. and stuff like this, and it's like, it's actually kind of cool. Like,
oh yeah, I love it every time they goes vertical lines, horizontal lines.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good season, and I love the Katsumi fight, and I'm looking forward to the next one too. But
For sure.
I won't spoil it. All right, before we finish, it's time for fan questions. Let's see. Oh boy, if I had to compare some characters from this episode to Muppets, who would be who? Tim, you can answer this one as well. Let's see. This is tough, man. I would compare Dopo to Sam the Eagle. I think that they both have sort of the same vibe. Pickle is sort of like Animal, I guess. From like on the drums.
That's a good one actually. I was thinking about who's big. I was like, I don't know, Big Bird, but Big Bird's so gentle.
Yeah.
Definitely not Big Bird.
If I had to cast this as like an actual like episode of the Muppets, I would make Katsumi Gonzo because I feel like that's like a good role for somebody who's just gonna lose. Yeah. And Tokugawa and Albert Payne, of course, would be Statler and Waldorf.
Oh, that's good. That's really good, actually.
Yeah, no, I've had Muppets on the mind. Any? Did I leave any for you? I feel like I took all of the good ones.
Damn, I guess I think I was originally gonna say Tokugawa would be like Elmo, just in terms of like size and like frailty, I guess. But maybe you're Elmo, a very elderly Elmo. But I think that all tracks. I think.
All right. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense too. All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to add that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Go watch Baki.
All right. Perfecto. All right. That's all the Baki we've got to talkie. See you all next week. Usually people say bye.
Oh, shoot. See ya.